Right. This is the 75th, whoa, let's celebrate that, episode of the Runnin My Mouth podcast. I am your extremely jubilant host, Aaron, and allow me to run my mouth. Allow me to run my mouth for a little bit. And it'll probably be more than a little bit because it has been a very eventful couple of weeks. A lot has happened since the previous episode of this podcast. I mean, where do I even start? I guess we'll just go in chronological order. I have a list, but number one, there's not that much on there. But the two main topics that are on this list are very substantial in that I could talk about them for probably forever. So, I mean, hey, let's just jump into it. Yeah, since last episode, well, first, I put out some music. I have music out in the world that I created with my own hands. It's pretty great. My EP, Precipice, for my project Alexina has been out for when did that come out? Hold on. It came out the 3rd. Yes, so it's been out for 2 whole weeks now, and I've honestly been kind of surprised by the reception. I mean, am I surprised that people are listening to it? Perhaps a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I expected when I put it out, other than the fact that it would be out, but it's out. It's been out for 2 weeks, and I've had people tell me that they like it, and I'm very happy about that. You know, it's always really, really nice when you really put yourself out there and like try something new. This is like completely new for me. Like music creation is completely new for me. And have people say like, oh, they like it, they even love it. That has been like a super really big deal for me, and I am really thankful that people have been liking it. And that's just really great. I love that people have been loving it. And it's kind of funny because literally the day that it came out, I was thinking and I realized like there's like no mixing done on any of these tracks. I mean, a lot of them it is just like one single like thing going on, but I didn't apply anything. I mean, with track one, Highway 80, with my amp, I had some delay and I had some reverb. But aside from that, from my amp, by the way, so aside from that, I kind of did nothing else to it. Like, I didn't put any EQ on it. Now, I will say I am very much still trying to learn Ableton. There's a lot going on with that program that I don't fully understand. It's been a learning process this whole entire time. Does one ever really know what's going on in Ableton? Maybe. Not me though. Not now. Down the line, perhaps. But as of right now, no. But yeah, it's been really interesting to have people listening to it and really enjoying it. And again, I am so thankful for that. So, that's yeah, I don't know. I really don't know how to put it into words, like how much I have been kind of enjoying all of this, because I have really been enjoying all of this. And so now what's next? Not shows, that's for sure. I've had a couple people ask me like, "Oh, do you ever think you're going to perform?" No. And it's not even because I am like, "Oh, I'm just so scared. Like, I don't know if I could." I know that I could. I could do anything I wanted to. I could do anything I set my mind to, okay? But I just truly don't feel like it. And also, I don't even know if I really have the setup for it. I mean, I have my synth and I can connect that to my amp. I don't know if that's an ideal setup, because I feel like, when I first got it and I didn't have anything to hook it up to, well, not everyone, but I feel like every other forum post that I saw was like, no, don't hook a synthesizer up to a guitar amp. It will explode it. That hasn't happened. It has not exploded my amp, thankfully. So, I think it does kind of cut off at the low end though. That's kind of really the only thing But I mean, aside from that, something else that I was thinking about, because I thought, oh, like I'll do videos like going into how I made the songs. And aside from, again, that first track, Highway 80, I kind of forgot. I kind of forgot how I even made these, which is crazy to say. I mean, with A Desperate Prayer, that one, that one's not that. I mean, I didn't really forget that much because I also spent a lot of time on it because I was really going back and forth as to how I wanted it to sound. Because in, the topic that we'll talk about a little bit later, I do have an alternate version of that track, which was going to be like the primary version because that was the one that I made first. That has percussion. I found like a free sample pack of like Game Boy sounds, like, Game Boy, uh, I guess Game Boy Color sounds. And I used that as like percussion because I didn't want it to be too, I don't know, I wanted it to sound kind of crunchy, all that to say. So I wanted like some kind of 8-bit sounding drums under it, to really go with the song itself. Because for that song, I mean, I do know the patch that I used for two of the songs, The Great Trepidation and A Desperate Prayer. Because for A Desperate Prayer on the Korg mini log, it's a default second patch, and then for The Great Trepidation, I actually saved it. And I haven't really planned on doing this yet, but I did finally get Minilog Sound Librarian to work. I think I was using like the Windows 11 version, and I have a Windows 10 computer, so that's why it wasn't working, and there might have been something with the driver. But I did export the patch. I was able to export the Great Trepidation patch. It's just called Trepidation, is what I called it. So I mean, if you want it, I have it. Do I plan on like releasing it? I mean, I could. It does sound really cool cuz the interesting thing about it is that, in the slowed down version, you don't really get like the full feeling of the patch, but with the regular speed version, which is on my Instagram at Alexina, you can really hear, like, you can hear it. I don't know how else to explain it. It's really cool. And I did finally figure out how to do that. But A Walk Through Time, that was one of the first tracks that I ever started like sitting down to actually record. And I think I did that on Cakewalk. So, and I truly cannot remember the patch that I used to make it. So if I ever wanted to recreate it, wouldn't know how to do it. So, it just kind of is what it is. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm wondering if it is another default one. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to figure it out just by listening to it, but, you know. But yeah, no live shows for me. Will there be a physical release? Maybe. Maybe I'd do like a limited run of, would I do tapes? I don't know. Because the thing about it is that, tapes, you got an A side and a B side. This is 48 minutes long, right? So I'm thinking, I mean, I think, nowadays you can get a tape to be however long you want it to be. But track 4 is really long. It's 21 minutes long. And the first 3 are also long. I don't think they would add up to, like, I don't even know how it would like work out with the tape, because like, what do I combine the first 2 tracks and the last 2 tracks, but that's not like equal amounts of time for like a side A and a side B. I don't really know how that would work. Honestly, I'd rather do a CD. But I guess it's like, people, they're getting into the physical media, which, by the way, I finally bought like an actual thing to put my CDs and tapes in. Like, they were just kind of hanging out before. I did get this like magazine rack from my job, and I was like, oh, that would be a cool thing to put my CDs in. And while technically it worked, number one, it can't really hold that many, which, I mean, I don't have that many CDs, but it couldn't hold that many. And also it was like really janky trying to put a CD on it and then take it off. It was like way too annoying. So I was like, meh. And also now I just have it. I don't really know what to do with it. You could probably hold zines. I mean, I do have a couple of Razor Cake magazines, and those are like magazine sized, and they could go in there. But like my what is it? 7, nope. The half sheet size zines, those are most of the ones that I have. I mean, if I put them in there sideways, I think that's what I'll do. I'll put my zines in there because right now I just have a bunch sitting in a box in my closet, because that's where I put them after I moved, which again, I moved like a year ago. So they just been in there, but I have some newer ones like from Zine Fest, which I'm wearing I read Zine shirt today, my triple XL house shirt. um, yeah, I guess I'll just put my zines in there. That would make way more sense. I don't know what I would do with my 8 pagers because those are really tiny. Probably just put them on my coffee table because I mean that's where a few of them are right now, on my coffee table. Anyways, all that to say, would I do a physical release? Maybe. It would really depend on the cost because, what could I make them myself? Could I like burn them myself? Yes, I would at this point need to actually buy a CD drive, which honestly, sure, why not? Yeah. I mean, I probably could use one, but also at the same time, like, how often do I find myself needing a CD drive? Not really until recently, like for my computer, So, I don't know. I mean, I could make them myself, really DIY it up, but I don't know if there's a demand for it. If you want a CD, let me know. I guess if enough people really want a CD, then like sure I can make them, but again they'll be extremely DIY. And as far as tapes go, I don't know. I know the people, they love the tapes, and I do love tapes too. I have a tape deck. It's attached to my CD player because it's all in the same stereo thing that I have. But yeah, I guess it just really depends. But yeah, Precipice is out. Stream it. Stream my music. Listen to my music. It's on Bandcamp. You can purchase it if you would like. And it's also on youtube.com for free. Not YouTube Music, just regular YouTube. And you can just listen to it. But if you buy it on Bandcamp, you could burn it onto a CD yourself. You get the files. So like you could do that. You could bootleg it. Why not? I'm also really satisfied with the album art that I did. I did it myself. Thank you very much. It is so there is this website called the Public Domain Image Archive, and it's just like a bunch of images and artwork and stuff like that from, I mean, if it is 100 years, then it would be from 1926 and beyond, that are no longer under copyright. So, a lot of like medical illustrations and photographs and stuff from like the Victorian era and stuff like that. And so I really wanted something, for whatever reason, I really wanted something like beachy, but like not like, ooh, beachy, like oceanic, like kind of scary and spooky for this, given that it is dark ambient music. And I was really wanting to go with something else, but then I saw this picture of this solar eclipse. It's a total solar eclipse from 1889, and I believe this picture is taken in California. And number one, I mean, it's just a great picture. Like you get the full like corona effect, and then there's just this big blanket of clouds, and then the trees, because this is taken on like a mountain or something. And then I add a little effect to it. I added some grain, and I changed the colors. Originally, I had it inverted, and I do still like the inverted version, but the non-inverted version honestly does really go. And yeah, is it crazy to say that I'm just kind of proud of myself? Like, I've been doing kind of really cool stuff lately. Like, these last couple of weeks have been really cool for me, if I do say so myself. So yeah, I am a little proud, if I can say that, Yeah, I'm really satisfied, but what else can I say? And I'm really excited to do some more stuff, but it's just, I don't want to say who has the time because I have the time, but what's crazy is that I feel like now these days I find myself like busy. Like I have things to do. Because I was thinking about it. when I was in college, like, on the weekends, I would do my errands. I would either have groceries delivered. That was before I had a car. I would get groceries delivered. Or when I did eventually get a car, I would drive to the grocery store, clean up my side of my dorm because I lived in the dorm the entire time I was in college. In the same room, by the way. I was in the same room my entire time in college, and honestly, that's kind of a slay. I think it's kind of a slay. I was able to get the same room for all 3.5 years. I really like that part. Because I don't know, I don't like change that much. I don't know. It's I like a routine. I like being a cartoon character and wearing mostly the same clothes. I like doing things in a routine kind of way. And when I was in college, I only ever really wanted to be in that one room, you know? And I mean, I was able to. So shout out to me. I had several, well, not several, but I went through quite a few roommates. There was one, I think it was just one semester where I had the entire side of the suite to myself. So I had my own bathroom. I was so spoiled in college. I don't think it took me a while to really understand how good I had it. But for like the first time in my life, I didn't have to share a bathroom with anyone. That was pretty great. And then of course, that phenomenal kitchen that I had that I still miss sometimes, full size stove, which I have a full size stove now, but it was glass cooktop and a dishwasher, the best dishwasher I've ever had. These last two apartments that I've lived in here in Jackson, I've had just the teeny weeniest stoves. Like I could talk about the state of housing. I'm not gonna, however, but I will say it just came to me because I just remembered. So today's the 18th, by the way. It's Saturday. Not only is it Saturday, but it's literally the middle of the day. It's 12:42 right now because, like I said, I have a lot going on. Obviously I'm doing this a little late because I had to skip this past Sunday because I was editing a video that I will get to later. But I have things that I'm doing in the afternoon. And then tomorrow, first of all, I'm going to see The Odyssey in IMAX. Really excited for that. And then there's a show later in the day, which I think is going to be literally directly after The Odyssey finishes. Because I'm seeing it at 3 in the middle of the day. Because I didn't really want to get out of the theater at 11. Because I think the other show time was 7. Which I don't know if that's 3 hours. 7, 8, 9. Oh. No? 10? Probably would have been around 10. But yeah, I've got things going on this afternoon into the evening and things going on tomorrow afternoon into the evening. So a lot is happening. So, was I saying? Why did I say that? I don't know. It's Saturday. Oh! July 26th, which is not next Sunday, but it's the Sunday after next. Well, I suppose, okay, if this comes out on the 22nd, then it is next Sunday. It'll be 5 years since I've been living in Jackson. 5 years, 3 apartments, 2 jobs. Yeah. That's, not nothing, for sure. I moved here July 26, 2021. For a job. I didn't really know where that job was going to go, to be completely honest. Honestly, 6 months in, I was like, okay, we got to figure something out. Honestly, I was just so desperate for employment because I had been just sitting at home. Well, okay, I wasn't just sitting at home. I did treat looking for a job like a full-time job. Every morning, I would wake up around the same time, which was whenever the sun was out, because back home, I guess you could call it childhood bedroom, even though I did live there for a little while into adulthood. It has an east-facing window, and I did not have blackout curtains, which I didn't really want blackout curtains. I did really like the fact that, the sun woke me up in the morning, because to this day, I do not use an alarm. I hate using an alarm. I hate being woken up not by my own volition, which I guess technically the sun waking you up is not by your own volition, but it feels more natural. It feels more primal. My very far off ancestors were in the caves or wherever having the sun wake them up. So it's yeah, that's pretty great. Either way, I would wake up whenever I would wake up, and I would get on my computer Dora, which I mean, It's literally just this one that I have now. I've had the same computer this whole time, which I don't know why that's been the one constant thing this entire time is that I've had the same computer, but sure. Yeah, I guess that is my constant. I get on my computer, I log on to Indeed.com and Glassdoor and LinkedIn, which LinkedIn, there's so many freaking scams on LinkedIn. I did fall victim to a couple of employment scams. Not my finest moments, but it did happen. That's how prevalent they were. They probably are even more prevalent now that it's the age of AI. It's like 2020 into 2021. Like we didn't have to worry about these kinds of things. But now I I really don't. I don't know what's going on there. That's rough. That's real rough, real tough. Um I hate that people are dealing with that. But anyways, I would log on to those three websites and I would find any new job listing that I could, either in Alabama, well, not anywhere in Alabama, in Birmingham. Honestly, I was looking for stuff in Mobile, but I really wasn't trying to live in Mobile like that. In Atlanta, but eventually I kind of gave up on Atlanta because they straight up were not responding at all. And then in Jackson, um, and I would apply for like 5 jobs a day. Like I still have it in my Gmail. Uh, Let me see. It was a label that I had, and in this is 182 emails, and a lot of these are just, yeah, going all the way back. Well, hold on, let me see. How far back does this go? I mean, not that far, actually. Yeah, 2020. And that's only when what is this? April 2020 is when I started, like, deciding to put it in its own separate folder so that I could keep track of the jobs that I applied to, because I was applying to so many jobs. There's 182 emails in here. Most of these are, again, just thank you for applying, and that's it. You know, um, yeah, man, what a time. I was also thinking about it because, again, video that we will get to soon. Um, while that was like a not great time for me personally, I made some great YouTube videos. I made some pretty great YouTube videos when I was unemployed. That is the only good thing that I can say came out of those 8 months. But yeah, spent 8 months doing that. And then finally got a job at my last place that I was employed that I hated. I've talked about it probably too much, but it really did do a number on me, to the point where it's like, am I entitled to financial compensation? I feel like I am. I feel like I'm entitled to some pain and suffering money. But knowing what's going on with my former employer, they don't got it. They do not have it. They don't got it. I hate to say it, sucks for them, but it is what it is, truly. But yeah, I moved down here July 26th, and then I had like a week, I think, until I started actually working, and then I started my first job. So August 1st is August 2nd. It was literally a month before my birthday, a month before my 22nd birthday, because it was 2021, so it would have been my 22nd birthday. And yeah, I did have to work on that day, which I wasn't enthused about, because if I can help it, I don't want to work on my birthday, but I'll be working on my birthday this year, so, kind of is what it is. It kind of is what it is, truly. And yeah, since then, I used to live downtown in an apartment, and, it was kind of interesting because, having the little view that I did, I kind of got to pretend that I was living in a bigger city than I was actually living, but I mean, I thought I would miss that a little bit more. I kind of don't. I kind of don't really miss having a view, because the really interesting thing about it is that in my last 2 apartments, obviously they've both been like ground floor situations, but I hardly ever open my blinds. I never opened my blinds at my last apartment. I don't open my blinds now because, again, ground floor situation. And I mean, honestly, as long as light is able to get in, like, I don't need to be opening my blinds like that. And it's so crazy to me because, you'll drive through certain neighborhoods, And people will just like straight up either have their blinds open, which is kind of whatever, because you know that they have them and they are gonna close them. But like straight up, no window coverings, not even shears. Just like, because I really don't want this to fall off because this is just a tension rod. But I have these. These are shears. These are just like little thin curtains that truly are just for privacy because they let light in, but you can't see in. Because something that I realized was after I had moved in here, my office, I'm in my office, obviously. My office light was on. I was coming back home after being out at night. It was after dark, and I look at my window, and I'm like, why can I just see up in here? I don't like that. So I went and I got some cheap shears, and I didn't even steam these. I really do need to steam them. Actually, I'm fine. I got some cheap shears, and I put them up, and they work. Thank God, because, yeah, like I said, I never open these windows or the blinds. So like I'm kind of okay with that actually. I thought I would want to see outside a little bit more, but like not really. Honestly, I'm more concerned with people seeing in than I am with me seeing out. So it's honestly not that big of a deal, but you know, that first apartment, it was I mean, it's been the cheapest place that I've lived. I feel like everywhere that I've moved, which I've only moved like 2 times, but it's been more expensive than the last. It was $820 a month. And I remember being very scandalized that they were going to raise it to $830. Because I felt like that was too much. And honestly, it was too much. It was an old building. I got stuck in our elevator definitely once. I'm thinking maybe 2 times that happened. Because there are 2 elevators in the building, and this is a building from like the 20s. I don't know if I said that already. And one of the elevators just straight up didn't work, and the other one was on its last leg. And I lived on the 5th floor, and I was not about to be walking up and down stairs. And also, the way that it was kind of built, where the stairs weren't really inside. They were covered by walls, but it was that like brickwork where it has like gaps in it, like on the outside. It's very 20s. Well, actually, I would say it's more like mid-century in my mind, but you know, I especially in these Mississippi summers, it's about to be in the hundreds coming into like Monday. In these Mississippi summers, walking up 5 flights of stairs to get to my apartment, no thank you. I wasn't about to do that. So it's like, and also it did really feel like a dorm again, because number one, it did kind of look like my dorm at Belhaven. They had like recently redone it. They had, you know, the terrible fake gray wood laminate that I hate. That's just like a clear indicator of like a cheap flip job. Like, I don't know how much that gray wood laminate costs, but it must be like 2 cents a roll because you see it everywhere. And, you know, again, teeny tiny, itty bitty, eeny weeny stove. Hated it. Couldn't even put a full size pan in there. But I made it work. Made some delicious meals in that kitchen. No dishwasher. Single-sided sink. Tiniest little sink. I believe that's what they call an efficiency kitchen. I don't know who it's efficient for. I mean, I guess it's efficient if you never use your kitchen. But me, I be cooking, all right? I am Cooks McGee, all right? I need a functional kitchen. I don't need an efficiency kitchen. I need one that is functional. And thankfully, I can say the one that I have now is pretty functional. It's a decent size. Not the biggest kitchen that I've been in, but it's a decent size. Double-sided sink, dishwasher, full-size stove. Love that, you know? So I'm definitely thankful for having that, because Lord knows some of the listings that I see around here, you're lucky if you get one tile of, I don't know what the heck that was. You're lucky if you get one tile of countertop space. Because the second place that I lived in was in Fondren. And listen, I did like living in Fondren. It was fine. It was perfectly fine. I liked my neighborhood. I liked the street that I lived on. The only thing I really wanted to change was the size of my home, because I lived in a 1-bedroom. And, you know, some 1-bedrooms, they're very spacious. They're very spacious. I don't know what else to say. They're spacious. You know, you got teeny tiny itty bitty studios, and you got big loft studios, you know, that are only really studios because, you know, it's just one room. I feel like that's the only kind of studio that I can live in. Like if I could just like put up some dividers and like have some separation, apply some feng shui. I get those Dear Modern videos recommended to me every so often. Like if I could apply those principles in a studio that I'm living in that is again spacious enough, then like yeah, I would do a studio. But they don't have those around here for a reasonable amount of money. I mean, they don't have anything around here for a reasonable amount of money, but in my last itty bitty teeny weeny apartment in Fondren that I was paying $850 for. Now, I will give them credit. My landlord's never raised the rent. It was the same those entire 3 years. 2023 to 2025, I was paying $850. That was pretty great. I did, however, number one, my electricity bill was way higher because when I was at my last apartment, I only did one winter there, or my first apartment, I only did one winter there, but I never turned the heat on. And also that was trepidatious in itself because there was no central AC. Again, old building. It wasn't a window unit because it was built into the wall, not the window. And the wall unit was in the living room and not the bedroom. So when it was summer, it was so hot. I had to like open my window just to get a breeze in, which thankfully I was able to do because again, fifth floor, wasn't really at risk of anything getting in except for like lizards, which no lizards ever got in. I honestly no bugs even really got in. That was the most bugless apartment that I've been in so far. I feel like all of the ones that I've lived in have had their pros and cons. That one's pro, mostly bugless. Kind of loved it. Did have to share laundry. Wasn't super enthused about it, but it also wasn't the worst thing in the world. I do, however, do really like having my own washer and dryer. Like, that's underrated. Very underrated. Very taken for granted. Because again, in college, had my own washer and dryer. Our dorm had its own washer and dryer. Not for the building, each unit. That, I was, again, so spoiled. Like, I was basically living in a 4-bedroom apartment. 4-bed, 2-bath apartamente, okay? That was legit top tier. Anyways, as I talking about my last apartment, I had a gas bill because I had a gas furnace and a heater, gas furnace heater, and a gas water heater, which I lived there for 3 years, 3 good years. I gave 3 good years to that home, okay? And I did really make it my home, but the amount of times that my power went out or my hot water went out because the water heaters were like underneath the building, and anytime it would rain a lot, it would like flood under there and put out the pilot lights on the water heaters, and I wouldn't have hot water. That happened at least once in the winter, and that was real bad because, the pipes being exposed. It was just like, so I was bathing in cold water every morning. Oh man, I kind of forgot about that. That was a crazy time. That was a crazy time. And then, of course, the amount of prolonged periods of time that I had been without power in the summer. Yeah, I kind of went through a lot at that last apartment. I'm not going to lie. I do look back on my time there fondly, but that was a lot. That was a lot. But hey, that rent, couldn't beat it. Could not beat it. Truly. And I don't even know if it's gone up or not, actually. Hold on. Is a unit there available? We'll see. We shall see. No. I can't imagine it wouldn't have gone up, though. I will say, that landlord, I know some of my other neighbors had a lot to say about them because I did end up talking to them. A couple, or just one of my neighbors, like, when I was moving out, which, by the way, I guess just to kind of give you an insight as to the kind of person I am, the only time I've had maybe, I can count on one hand the amount of conversations I had with my neighbors living in that apartment, and I lived there for 3 years. I do just like to be left alone, and I know it's not great. It really isn't great, but I just like to be left alone, and my landlord did leave me alone. I gave them my money. They responded to my maintenance requests in a reasonable time, and that was it. They just left me alone. That's how you become a good landlord in my mind. And they didn't raise the rent. And landlords, do they deserve rights? Up for debate. But I couldn't really complain. I truly couldn't complain. And the power going out constantly, that was more of a Jackson infrastructure issue than it was an issue with that apartment specifically. Because again, anytime there was a stiff breeze outside, it felt like my power would go out and it'd stay out for like a day. Like that was an Entergy thing, I feel like, versus an Entergy and a City of Jackson infrastructure thing than it was on my apartment, because the whole street would be out. It wouldn't just be our apartment. Everyone on that street would be suffering. It got to the point where, after another outage, the house across, well, not directly across, but like diagonal across the street from me, they got a generator, and my power would be out, and I would go outside and I'd hear that generator running. I'd be like, man, must be nice, Anyway, and now I'm in this apartment in an undisclosed location because you people don't need to know where I currently live. All right. And I will say, decent neighborhood, decently quiet, decent neighbors. I can't really complain, except for the infestation that I had when I moved in. That also came back like almost exactly a year after I got my apartment treated. I think I'm just gonna have to get my apartment treated every year. And I mean, hey, also, I never got billed for that. I think I was supposed to be billed for this last time that the exterminator came, but I didn't. So, no skin off my nose, truly. But yeah, it's probably just gonna have to be a thing where I'm just gonna have to get this place treated every year. And the problem clearly preceded me. There's not much I can do about it, but I do really, if I can help it. And my rent did go up, only by $30. It could have been way worser. But if I can help it, I want this to be the last place that I live here in Jackson. Like, I don't know how much longer I have left here in this city. I don't know how much longer I got it in me. I'm not really in any hurry to leave, but I want this to be the last place that I live. Because number one, hate moving. And number two, it's getting weird out. The rental market has been weird, but I feel like it's getting weirder. And I don't know when the bubble is going to burst. It needs to happen at some point, because, I'm just updating my topics list, because we're moving on. That was first, and that was second. All right. So, as I've been alluding to, I have had a very substantial video, not just because of the length of it, which, yes, it was long, all right? I know that. I didn't really want to cut much out of it because I couldn't, I couldn't really. But I've had a pretty substantial video come out this past week, this past Wednesday, actually. And it has been the culmination of, I feel like, everything for me. And there really is so much that I could talk about as it relates to this, which is why it's probably good that I only have a few things to talk about today, because this one I really can talk at length about. But, and I mean, I've already kind of done if you've seen the video, then and if you've seen the original video, then but I'm going to talk about it anyways. I don't freaking care. 3 years ago, in fact, 3 years ago tomorrow, because it was the 19th that all of this happened, I was, at work, at my second job here in Jackson, which is still my current job, and I was making a promo for, like, severe weather, as you do. And I was looking through our system for some tornado footage, because I do know there have been a number of instances where we have got a tornado on the ground, like footage of that. And I was trying to find it. I couldn't find anything. It was so crazy. I'd spent like an hour looking, probably longer than I should have. I probably should have given it up after a while. But one thing about me, and this has really like come through with all of this, but if I really want to find something, I'm not going to stop until I find something. If I want to find something, I'm gonna try my best to find it. And I think, that does make me a really good researcher. Because, as someone who grew up with a lot of old tech, a lot of outdated tech, and a lot of tech that just kind of didn't work, I got really good at troubleshooting. I got really good at Googling. Now, all of that has kind of gone out the window because Google has inshitified itself. So it kind of don't work the way it used to. But once upon a time, Googling was really a skill. This is before people outsourced their freaking brain power to AI and stuff like that. But Googling really did used to be a skill. I honestly think it still kind of is a skill, So I like to think that I could at least try really hard to find things that I'm looking for. If it, fits certain parameters of, something that would already exist on the internet. Anyways, I was looking through our system for footage and I come upon this package from 2010 because our online system goes back to, I want to say, '07. Because if you go back far enough, you do see stuff about like Katrina recovery efforts. Because, all that lasted for like a really long time. 2 years, probably after a major hurricane like that, 2 years is like no time, especially for, given everything that happened with Katrina. But I didn't realize it before either, but there was kind of a lot of impact here in Jackson with Katrina. Obviously, I wasn't living here at the time. I was living in Central Alabama. And we really didn't get it like that. But Jackson kind of got toe up, even from like the outer rings. Actually, I'm trying to remember. I don't think it was a direct hit. Was it? Because it went right up. No, I think it was a direct hit. That's why I got toe up. Yeah. Obviously, having been inland for a few miles, it died down, but still, Jackson got way toe up, and especially South Mississippi. Good Lord. Anywho. Yeah, all that to say is you could find stuff that old in our online system, but I found this package from 2010 about this tornado that went through that really, again, toe up Yazoo City. And, aside from the tornado itself, one of the reporters at my station interviewed the members of Burning Windsor about that tornado because they got a direct hit from it as well. They were traveling north on I-55. I've said this, I feel like, so many times. I know it by heart. They were traveling north on I-55, and once they hit Holmes County, the tornado went right over them. Didn't touch the ground, but went right over them, threw their Jeep and their trailer clear off the road. They flipped a few times and they all survived. They were injured, but they survived, and they were headed to Memphis to play a show. Not a battle of the bands, because it did say a battle of the bands in the news package, but I guess it wasn't a battle of the bands. But they were heading to a show at the New Daisy Theater in Memphis. They got a direct hit from a tornado that passed right over them, and they lived to tell the tale, and they still made it to Memphis, played on borrowed gear from a band called, I want to say, After the Storm. So all that, very poetic, but in hearing that, this is before, all of this is before, this is pre-Jackson Underground. Is it pre this podcast, actually? Hold on. I don't think so. Because when did I start doing this? First episode was May 2023. So no, it was not pre this podcast, but it was in the very early days. I think I was on 5 episodes of this podcast before I would figure that out. And then, I had a lot of very complicated feelings about this, and I didn't really include this in my follow-up video, probably as much as I should have, because I really didn't know where to fit it in, because it is mostly just about Burning Windsor, the band itself, and less about me, this one. And I feel like all of these feelings are better explained in the essay that I wrote that is on my website, called Searching for Burning Windsor and Finding Myself Instead, but something that I don't know if I can really understate this, but music, obviously, hey, we're on 75 episodes of this podcast, which didn't really start out as a music podcast, but it ended up being that way anyways. Music has really been a very, very important part of my life for my whole life. And it's really interesting too, because it's not like my parents were like big music people. They listen to music, we have the radio in the car and stuff like that, but, my parents were, like, going to concerts or taking us to concerts. Like, my first concert was one that I wanted to go to when I was a senior in high school. It's 2017 was my first concert. Panic at the Disco, by the way. It was a pretty great show, at the BJCC in Birmingham. That was fun. Anywho, all that aside, you know, my parents were kind of music people, but, it was always something that I really experienced on my own because, you know, growing up in a homogenized community that I did, up until middle school, when I was in elementary school, I went to the only mixed elementary school, like, in my entire school district, which there was only, well, there's the city school district and then the county and then the private schools, but the private schools in Selma, they're segregation academies, and they mostly integrated, like, within the last 15 years, which is crazy to say, but hey, it's Alabama. What can you expect? But yeah, in my most formative years, middle school into high school, I went to all black schools. And obviously, as I've come to learn, obviously as I have known on some level for my whole life, black people, we're the whole entire spectrum. There's like every genre of person out there can be found in black people, but it didn't feel that way to me as a kid, as a middle schooler, listening to like dubstep or like, EDM and stuff like that, because I was really into dubstep in middle school. I didn't know anyone else who listened to that, or if they did, they just didn't talk about it. I love dubstep, I love D&B. I didn't really start loving jungle until very recently, but if I did hear it at the time, I probably would have loved it. All those kinds of genres, and getting into like pop punk and stuff like that through Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and all of that. And it's really crazy to say because all that stuff is like widely popular. Like Fall Out Boy sells out stadiums. Panic at the Disco, that tour that I saw them on, was a really big tour. The BJCC was an arena. It was an arena tour. It's crazy to think about it now, considering like these are very, I would say, baseline bands in those genres. I did not know a single other person who openly admitted to listening to that kind of stuff. And, that was what I loved the most, but I couldn't talk to anybody. I could not talk to anybody about it, And obviously you have forum culture, which I was really into, because I had a lot of other interests like video games and stuff at the time where I had more friends who were into video games. I will say that. I had more friends who were into video games, so I could talk to people more about that, but with music, which I would say was like probably at the time secondary to video games, but still a really big, really important part of my life. I had no one to talk to about that. I didn't know a single other person who liked that kind of music. And when I did tell people, in the rare instances, because I learned to not do this after a while, but when I did tell people, and I can kind of feel myself getting emotional, but it was really that big of a deal. When I did tell people I was into stuff like that, they would look at me like I was weird. Like, I got mixed allegations, and I do really mean allegations because they said it like it was a crime, which, I mean, hey, no hate to the biracials out there. Cause like I really don't know why. Well, I know. It's because I talked a certain way and I looked a certain way. I had longer hair back then and it was always kept straight, which I did hate, but I didn't really have the agency to change at the time because I was a child. And also I've gotten a lot dark. Well, I wouldn't say a lot darker, but I've gotten quite a bit darker as I've gotten older. But I was really light skinned when I was in middle and high school. So, you could have come to the conclusion that one of my parents was one of Jakob's creations. So, and I never really understood it because, again, they said that like it was a bad thing, but it was just an isolating experience. And it's so crazy now because going to shows, I see kids that are really young, they're in middle school, in high school, they're in bands with their friends. If not, they're going to shows with their friends. They have that kind of thing. I've had people ask me a couple of times when I tell them, I'll never forget this. I was at a show at the end of all music. I can't remember who's playing. But there was this guy, older guy from Hattiesburg. Older guy from Hattiesburg who was there. And I was talking to him a little bit, and he asked me where I was from, and I told him I'm from Selma, Alabama. And he was like, "Oh, did you go to shows in Selma?" And I'm like, "We didn't have that. We did not have that." And part of me understands that there are probably people just like me who existed and wanted that kind of thing, but for one reason or another, probably just couldn't. Another thing to keep in mind is that, instruments cost money. Instruments do cost money. Number one, the only reason I have my guitar is that someone gave it to me for free. Shout out Lucy. It was her birthday yesterday. Happy birthday. Big L. That's probably not a good nickname, but it was Lucy's birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to her. Yesterday, as I'm recording this, it's been a few days as you're watching this now. Anyways, the only reason I have a guitar is that someone gave it to me for free, and the only reason I have a synth is that I got it used, but it was still $230 it cost me to get that. And obviously as a kid, you have no money, and my parents already kind of made it clear that they weren't really gonna, because something about me is that when I was in middle and high school, I really, really, really wanted to learn how to play the drums. And part of me does really want to learn how to play the drums. But now I'm like in an opposite conundrum, because when I was in high school, I had the space. Like we had, we had a garage. And there were always 2 cars in that garage. So I don't know if I could have convinced my parents to get a car out of the garage, but we had a shed. We had we had like 2 sheds in our yard. One was like shed size and the other one was like a lot bigger, which is technically like my dad's little man cave. But either way, I had the space for a guitar kit, didn't have the money, was a child, no job. My parents were actively against me getting a job when I was in high school as well, even though I did want one. I did have one for a time, but that was barely a job. That was like I don't even know what that was. That was barely a job. But something to keep in mind is that, I grew up really middle class, but I grew up really middle class in Selma, Alabama, and that gets you like really far. Your money goes a lot further in rural areas than it does in cities. And I know some people like to act like Jackson's not a city. It's got a population larger than 17,000, which is the population of Selma. It was a little bit higher when I was growing up. People have been moving out, obviously including myself. But, the entire county, the population is like 30,000, And not only that, it wasn't 30,000 rich folks. There were a lot of people. What is the number? I used to know this off the top of my head, but perhaps I have forgotten. Because there's 2 different numbers, and I know one of them is more situationally appropriate than the other, but I can't remember which is which. And I'm talking about the median and the average household income. But I think the median household income for Selma, Alabama was, I want to say, at the time that I looked this up, so it's been more than 5 years, so this could have changed. I don't think it would have gotten better. I'm on my computer, girl. Look it up. Let me see. So, my AL median household income. Census Bureau. Let's see. Those are population estimates. It's actually gone down. Now it's 16,000. But the population estimate in 2020, which was the last census, was 17,000. Let me see. Housing. Where is it? Here we go. Nope, that's sales, retail sales. Here we go. Median household income in 2020 to 2024, $33,194. Per capita income in the last 12 months, 2020 to 2024, $25,156. Persons in poverty, 30%. Now, I don't know how that would stack up. Well, I know the median household income is definitely higher for the city of Jackson, just for, I know it's higher. But that's kind of what we were working with, and I'm not saying that, obviously poor people, they can make something shake. You know, people who have been living like that know resilience. However, I didn't know any kids who played instruments outside of band, you know? And I don't even know if they paid for those. Like I never really knew how that worked. I think around here, like if your kid is in band, like yeah, you're paying for a tuba. But I think they might have just like loaned them out for the year at my high school. I truly don't know how it works. But outside of band, people were not playing instruments. People weren't making bands with their friends in their parents' garages, which I mean, people did have garages, I will say. When I was growing up, my concept of like who was rich and who wasn't was so like crazy because like pretty much everyone I knew lived in a house. Even the poorest people lived in a house. Only like if you were like way poor did you live in an apartment complex because most of the apartment complexes in Selma were owned by the housing authority. Like I don't think there were any like there were very few privately owned apartment complexes in Selma to my knowledge. Most of them are owned by the housing authority, which would be I guess considered section 8 housing. um so unless you're like at that level, you were still living in a house. So people had garages, but they weren't playing instruments. And you know, and I mean, I guess you had some people that would like play in their churches, but that's like a whole different thing. So it's like I did not know a single other person. And now were there other people? Yes, I do tell a story of this one guy who I talked to literally one time in my art class in that essay that I wrote on my website. So yes, they existed, but for one reason or another, we just all kept that to ourselves. And so it was a truly, truly isolating experience, being really into something, having no one to talk to about it. Like, you know, like what do you even do? And I mean, forums and subreddits can only really get you so far in terms of human connection, and that's really all I had. I wasn't really into the forums. I mean, I was into the subreddits, but I wasn't really posting or commenting like that because I don't know, I just wasn't. So it's like, it was isolating. And now I'm moving here. I have a little bit of adult money and I'm spending it going to concerts and stuff like out of town, usually in like New Orleans or Memphis. Usually New Orleans. I think I've gone to New Orleans way more than I've been to Memphis for a show. Occasionally Birmingham, and then the one time in Little Rock. And I think the only time I actually flew to go to a show was when I saw Animals as Leaders for the second time in Atlanta, which by that point I had already been going to local shows for like a while. So, wherever was in driving distance, which thankfully, New Orleans and Memphis and Birmingham had stuff that I wanted to see occasionally, but still, it was still not that often. Like this year, oh, yes, I have. I have flown to a show. Haven't I? Yes. Wait, haven't? No. Well, no, I went to Baton Rouge. That was out of town. But I think that's like the only out of town show that I've been to like this year. Let me see. Because I really can't remember. Nope. Yeah. Baton Rouge, that's when I bought that. Yeah. Okay. So I've only been out of town for one show this year. Not to say there isn't stuff going on. There is stuff going on. It's just I haven't felt like traveling. And also, the coins aren't stacking when I need them to, and the PTO also isn't stacking like I need it to. So I've had to stick to the local shows. But at the time, before I made this discovery, anytime I want to see some live music, I have to go out of town and, be surrounded by strangers. And it was and I can't really use any other word to describe this but painful. It was painful to travel out of town and go. Obviously, I was excited to be there, but to travel out of town and go to these shows and stand in line in front of and behind people who were there with their friends or their partners or groups of friends. And I really am trying not to get emotional because, like, the feelings obviously are still very strong, but they were very strong at the time. But, to have this thing that you just love so, so, so much, and you just have to experience it alone because you don't know anyone who's into it, that has existed up until really recently. Like, it's been really recent that I've not had anyone to talk to about this kind of stuff, you know? And the one time that I am kind of able to share this experience with someone, first of all, I mean, I really don't want to rehash it, but I'm gonna because it's important to the story. It was my 23rd birthday, and it was the Zombie Tour, The Devil Wears Prada. They were gonna be in Memphis on my birthday, September 2nd. I want to say 2022. Yes, I remember that. That was my first time in Memphis, first of all. I went and saw the pyramid that next day. It was a lot of fun. But, my best friend at the time, slash former podcast co-host, I asked him, like, hey, like, what's it going to take for us to go to, like, a concert together? Because, like, that was really the one thing that I wanted in this life, was to be able to share that experience with someone. And I had someone who I thought, I guess we weren't as close as I thought, was my best friend. And he told me at the time, like, okay, if you buy the ticket, then, like, yeah, I'll go with you. So I was like, slay. And then this show that is on my birthday comes up, and listen, I am the birthday girl, all right? I take my birthday very seriously, and to have the show be on my birthday, first of all, slay. But I bought a ticket, and he was like, no, I'm not going. And it's like, well, what was the point of that? And finally, after honestly just like begging for I don't know how long, I finally convinced him to go to a show with me. And it's like the worst. Well, I wouldn't say it's the worst. Well, honestly, it wasn't the best trip I've been on. It's probably in my bottom 20, bottom 10 trips that I've been on. It's like it was so crazy. That whole thing was so crazy. And again, it was just yet another isolating, lonely experience. And I'm there with like other people. It shouldn't feel that way, So I'm thinking at the time to bring it all back to Burning Windsor. When I find that news package, I'm thinking like, wait, they're from Vicksburg. Like, well, where's the music scene in Vicksburg? And I didn't really know where to look. It wasn't. It just wasn't easily found. And I'm hoping, by me doing this and me doing Jackson Underground, that it's not as hidden as it used to be, because it did really feel very hidden. Also, I just wasn't on Instagram at the time, so it's like, which is my website is a website and not just on a specific social media platform, because I feel like it's a little bit more accessible in that way. And so, I'm looking through the little information that I can find out about Burning Windsor. And I see that they performed in these places all throughout the state and in Memphis, and at this one place in Tupelo that had all these big name bands perform there that had closed. And it's like, well, where are all the, any big name band that I'm into or looking at, they skipped the state of Mississippi entirely. They skipped Alabama definitely entirely. You'll get a date in Atlanta and a couple dates in Texas, and then maybe Florida, but who wants to go to Florida, right? Who wants to go to Florida? And all of this to say is that all of this at the time just felt so inaccessible to me. Like, I don't know. And again, it is kind of hard to put into words, but I really wanted to just be able to experience this thing that is really normal, by the way. Going to shows, very normal. Really normal thing to do. Liking this kind of music, also very normal. I've seen the whole gamut of people that are into, like, your heavier or more unconventional metal genres, and it truly, again, the rainbow coalition you can find at shows sometimes. And so it's like, why does it feel this way? Why does it feel so lonely? I don't want to get emotional. Why does it feel so lonely to be into this thing. Like, why? It never felt fair to me. And then I find this news package and I find out, like, oh, there used to be a heavy music scene in Mississippi and now it's gone. It existed in 2010, 15 years ago, and it just evaporated, it disappeared. But then eventually I find out that that wasn't the case. It is still here. Very well hidden, unfortunately, but it was still here. And I go to my first show, and the rest is history. And through all of that, I have, and again, this is gonna sound very cornball, but I don't care. I'm embracing my cornball status. All right? It really does feel like I have found a piece of myself that had been missing for so long. To be able to have this musical community here, like, part of me is wondering, like, okay, if all this ever does just like blow up, if there ever is like a COVID 2.0, what the heck am I gonna do? Because I really don't know. We're gonna cross that bridge. Hopefully we won't have to get to the bridge. Hopefully there is no river. There's no river for a bridge to be built over. There are no bridges. There are no bridges. I hope. But man, so it's like, and it's really interesting too, because sometimes I'll go on the metalcore subreddit and I'll see people like wondering, like, how can I, especially now, again, with the advent of AI, like, how can I find new music that's not AI? And it's like, go to your local scene. And I know for a lot of places, especially a lot of really small, a lot of rural, a lot of impoverished places, it's not really possible. You are kind of gonna have to go to like the next biggest city that you can find. And I guess it is kind of a miracle that I did move to a moderately sized city that does have an active scene like this. Which I feel like, given that this is a state capital, I mean, they're probably what they got going on in Wyoming, I mean, I know there's stuff going on in the Dakotas Mall, a band that I have seen here. They're from one of those Dakotas. So, and I know there's like a Fargo there is a Fargo, North Dakota scene. So, like, even up there, they got stuff going on. But, Wyoming might be a little bit more difficult. But, I even now have come to find at least one 334 metal band that, they're not from Selma. I don't think they're from Dallas County. 334 does kind of cover a wide area of like central Alabama, so they might be from closer, like Montgomery, which are like, who wants to go to Montgomery, especially when the Birmingham scene is as big and as influential as it is. Again, something that I find out as an adult, having moved away from Alabama, the Birmingham scene is like pretty big in the Southeast. I would say, obviously not as big as Atlanta or like Nashville. I honestly don't really know what the Nashville metal scene is like. I know Memphis has definitely a lot more going on, but that is a pretty decently sized market. And I only find that out after I move away. So it's like, Mobile does have stuff going on too. I'm trying to think. Montgomery might. I do. Okay, so to my knowledge now of the scenes in Alabama, you got North Alabama, which is like Huntsville. There's like quite a bit of stuff going on up there. Birmingham obviously is like really big. Tuscaloosa, I don't know if Tuscaloosa and Birmingham are like connected in any way, but I would say, given that there's colleges in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa is more of a college town, so there would be stuff going on there. And then there's probably some amorphous stuff going on in central Alabama, but I truly don't know. The river region, as it's called. And then of course Mobile, there's stuff going on there because I guess there's some like crossover between like Biloxi, which there's stuff going on there, and like what's close to, hold on, I need to look at a map. I was gonna say Tallahassee, but I don't know what's going on down there. Destin, Panama City Beach. Okay, yeah, maybe Tallahassee. I think Jacksonville definitely has some stuff going on. Is this the Panhandle? Like the southern part of, like the part of Florida that could conceivably be called the South. Not Orlando. There's stuff going on in Orlando, but Orlando's not the South. Orlando is just Florida. It's its own thing. But Tallahassee, Jacksonville, I feel like those are Florida cities that can still be considered the South. Everything else, like Miami is not the South. Tampa, West Palm Beach, all y'all down there, that's South Florida, that's a whole other thing entirely. Only a little bit of Florida is like the South. I think it's not controversial to say. But yeah, anyways, it has really meant a lot to me to find the music scene here because, again, like I said, it has, at the risk of sounding like a cornball, which I don't care, it really has completed me in a way that I really did need at the time, because at the point that I did find it, I truly had been spending a lot of time not talking to anyone and spending a lot of time by myself, which I am more of a loner type, which, again, I don't know if I want to use the word loner, because, again, we're getting into cornball territory, but I am fine with spending stretches of time by myself, but the reason why I probably would never consider a remote job at this point in my life is that I do really need to be around people at some point. Like, I just can't be by myself all that often, and I was 6 months into my current job, so I didn't really know people that well, so it's like I didn't know how I was gonna fit in, because it's 6 months, but it was a very short 6 months, I feel like. So I was still really trying to get the lay of the land. I was still trying to learn people's names. There are a lot of people that work at my station. There are a lot, but there's not a lot at the same time. And I was still really trying to get a feel of things. I was spending a lot of time by myself. I was honestly deeply unhappy, like truly deeply unhappy. And I've been thinking back on it because 2023, probably the worst year of my adult life. COVID aside, 2023 was so far the worst year of my adult life. Like, so much had gone on during that year that was just, I refer to it as my euthanasia coaster year for a reason. Because if you look it up, play along, if you look up the euthanasia coaster, which I don't have to because I already know how it looks, but it starts out, if this is like an emotions graph, it starts out low, because that year I was so despondent when it came to my job. Like, I really needed to figure something out. I did not know how much longer I was going to be able to stay, because it got to the point where I would be driving on the interstate going south on I-55 just crying after work, just like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta figure something out. That's how bad it had gotten. And, I found this job, honestly, not even in that much time. Like, it didn't take that long. Applying to getting that offer letter was like a month. Really quick. So it started out low, because I started the year out just desperate for something. And then it got really high because I got that job and I was really excited about it. And I was like, all right, we're up. Things are going. But then my friendship starts taking a nosedive. And around March is when you get to the big drop. March was the big drop because that's when the concert was, and that's when things started to fall apart. Although I will say, seeing August Burns Red, pretty dope. Pretty great live band. I don't regret that. But everything else? Yeah. Anywho, and then things just spiral throughout the year as it goes on, because not only did that happen, but my favorite creature in the whole wide world, my puppy dog Rio, he died. He was 15, which, pretty old for a lab. Goodness gracious. He was the last of his litter, by the way, to survive. And he died while I was here and not at home. Not that I don't know if I would have wanted to be there when it happened. I feel like that would have been way more traumatic if I actually saw it happen. But yeah, August 23rd, it'll be 3 years? No, that can't be right. Because 2023, 3 years. August 23rd, 2023 is when he died. And I didn't take it well. And in hindsight, I think I can identify that I, in the month of November up until December. I feel like by December I like was starting to kind of feel a little bit better. But during the month of November, I think, and I'm not I was gonna say I'm not a mentalist. That's not what a mentalist is. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not one of them head shrinkers. But looking back on it, I think I was going through a depressive episode, November 2023, and it wasn't great. It really wasn't great. I was just so inexplicably, I mean, there were explanations, but I was explicably really, really going through it November 2023, which kind of culminated in, you know, actually, no, I did still really like being in Hawaii. It was just I wasn't feeling great while I was down there. And my family, low key, was kind of making it worse. I'm not gonna lie. My family was kind of making it worse. Hey, some shade. They were making it worse. I'm being so serious. They were making it worse. Like, I don't. That's really all I can say. They were making it worse, but we're past it. We're past it now. I'm doing way better. I'm doing way better than I was at the time. But good Lord, they weren't helping. Yeah, I think I was legit going through a like actual depressive episode, November 2023, into December, but finding all of this really did help pull me out of it. You know, I wasn't spending a whole lot of time by myself anymore. I was not really interacting with people at shows, but it was really nice to be able to hear live music, like the kind of live music that I like really, really liked, like so many local bands that I like really ended up liking. And I did wear my Crypt Eater shirt, you know, through the segments of that video on purpose. That was that first show that I went to. I didn't buy that shirt at that show. I bought that shirt at a later show, but you know, seeing them and then talking about that on the podcast, that was a whole nother thing that happened and opened up so much for me. So it's like, you know, honestly, from there, things just like started getting better, and they've kept getting better, and they've been just getting so much better ever since then. You know, it got weird there for a while. November 2023, I can only describe it as weird. Because I don't know if I have the vocabulary to really explain what I was going through, aside from acknowledging that it probably was a depressive episode. And honestly, to my credit, I don't think I've gone through anything like that since then. Like, I have not felt that way since then, which is a good thing. You know, it did kind of get to a point where, and I do think that was during that time, where both my mom and my therapist were like, hey, antidepressants, how do we feel about that? How do we feel about that? And I was like, you know, no. I'm not anti-medication, by the way. I'm not anti-big pharma. I'm not Maha. It was just, number one, couldn't really put words to the way that I was feeling. I didn't think I was depressed. You know, I don't think I have that as like a chronic thing that I go through. So I felt like going on antidepressants was like the nuclear option, kind of. And thankfully, I mean, I feel like fingies crossed. That won't be something that I have to deal with now that I have a better support system outside of my family. So we're doing a little bit better in that regard. But yeah, it was really rough there for a while, and I have and will continue to credit Burning Windsor with getting me out of that, you know. And then fast forward 3 years, you know, I've been going to shows for 3 years now. Been booking for a hot minute, you know, talking about the pod, doing Jackson Underground, taking pictures at shows, really having a whale of a time with it all. And I didn't really give up my search. I hadn't really been actively searching anymore because, you know, how many more dead ends can you go on before it's like, okay, what else is there out there? But they found my video really by happenstance. You know, if you want to hear the story of how they found it, you gotta watch the video. It's called, I did do A/B testing on the title, but eventually I just ended up going with the title. where is it? After 3 years, I found Burning Windsor. So watch that. It is long, but hey, if you made it this far into the episode, we're only a few minutes shorter than the length of that video. So it's like, and it's not just me talking, and there's more going on visually. So hop to it, perhaps. But yeah, it's all of that, and not only having that be acknowledged, but having that be appreciated. Like, I didn't really know this at the time, obviously, until we actually started like corresponding, but it had been 15 years since I think maybe both Nate and Meredith had seen Dustin, because he had been like all over the country at that point. But and I don't, well, I mean, I kind of hate giving myself credit for certain things, but it is kind of all down to me. But had I not made that video 3 years ago, they would have never seen each other again, probably. It's 15 years since they saw each other. Like, I want to say, after the band kind of fizzled out in 2011-ish, they just kind of went their separate ways. They were adults, they were getting into relationships, they were having children, and it just kind of, ended the way that it ended. And I think it was really interesting to hear that there wasn't, and I didn't really expect there to be anything like that, but there wasn't any major like blow up or explosion of anything. It really did just kind of fizzle out, and a point that I made in my first video was that, it could be a very normal reason that they broke up, and it was a really normal reason that they broke up, but I still wanted to know the full story. And now I know the full story, and number one, let's celebrate that. Hey, me, the researcher that I am, I really wanted to get to the bottom of it, and I got to the bottom of it. Shout outs to me for that. All right. So yeah, all that coming full circle, the week after I released some music, something that I never thought I would be doing. But were it not for this music community, the idea probably never would have wormed its way into my brain, even though I am such a big fan of music. Very general statement. I never thought I would be learning 2 instruments, but here I am. I never thought, when I started learning those 2 instruments that I would start making recordings, but here I am. I didn't really think when I started, well, okay. I can't even lie and say like, oh, when I started recording it, I didn't know if I was going to release it. I did. I wanted to release it at some point. But yeah, all of this has just really improved my life. Like, there's really no other way to say it. Like, this has, I don't want to say it saved my life, because I want to make one thing abundantly clear. My life was never at risk of ending. Like, yes, I did go through a depressive episode in November 2023, but despite that, I was still feeling like there was something on the other side. Like, it didn't get to that point. It didn't get to that point. I want to make that very clear. It did not get to that point. You guys do not have to worry about me in that regard. Like, I feel like a house will have to have fallen down on me even then. I don't know what it would take. I hope I never know what it will take for me to get to that point. But I can very confidently say that it never did get to that point, and it very hopefully never. I can't control what goes on in my brain chemistry, all right? But it's never gotten to that point. It probably will never get to that point. But so I sort of resist using the phrase saved my life, but it really did improve it in ways that I'm probably not even appreciating right now, So, and what's crazy about it is that, last night, again, was Lucy's birthday. Happy birthday to her. But, having been at her birthday party and celebrating with her and the rest of her friends, and it's like, yeah, I love being around people. It's like really great, actually. I am, again, really okay with spending long stretches of time by myself, but being around people is pretty underrated. Something that I've also learned, being around people, pretty great. Pretty great. Really can't, no complaints about that, So it's, again, and the reason I'm recording this in the middle of the day on a Saturday is because I'm going to the freaking Choctaw Indian Fair with another one of my friends that I met in this community. So it's like, yeah, this is great. I have friends now. Like, that's pretty great. Let's celebrate that. Huh? You know? Yeah. That's again pretty underrated. Having friends, pretty underrated. I don't know what to tell you. It's pretty underrated. And I don't want to call it my advocacy or anything like that, because again, we're stepping into cornball territory, but I have, even if this is just through DMs, talked to a couple of people who maybe didn't know that this kind of stuff was happening here in Jackson, like I didn't know this kind of stuff was happening. And if I could just get one person, one person, to come to a show and to find something that they really like. Don't even have to start a band. I'm not as militant as Lucy. Lucy wants everyone to start a band. But if I could just get people to come to shows and find something that they like, find a community that they like, find people that they like, then I don't know, I'm not religious, obviously, so I don't really believe in the whole calling concept where you feel called by God to do a thing. Again, that's definitely cornball territory. I don't know, man. Not to rag on my Christian, I know I have a lot of Christian viewers, by the way. There are a lot of Christian people in this community. Given the fact that we are in the Bible Belt, that's kind of a given. But I never really liked that concept of the whole calling vocation type thing. It's I don't know. I feel like we're giving God a lot of credit here when sometimes the things that we call divinely inspired have come from ourselves, but I won't belabor the point. But I feel like if I could just help a young person not feel as alone as I felt for a time there, then yeah, I will consider what I am doing, what I have been doing, very worthwhile. So, yeah. I didn't even really talk about the video itself. I mean, it's out. It's been out for a few days. I am very delighted with the response that it's gotten. I got quite a few views on it. I mean, nothing, we're not, it's not Mr. Beast numbers, but, it's Mr. Beast numbers for me, all right? It's Mr. Beast numbers for me. That's what I have to say. But yeah, it took 5 months for this to make, from first starting correspondences to uploading the video. It did take quite a bit, but given that I am an adult with a job, my days and my afternoons are unfortunately not as free as they used to be. And honestly, I don't know if I could make something like this if I was unemployed, just for the fact that I did spend a little bit of money on this. And I went through and calculated it. It wasn't much to calculate because, it was literally two things that I had to pay for. I had to rent the space at Urban Foxes. Shout out Cody Cox and Urban Foxes. And that was $212. Because I rented out for $3, which is $65 an hour, plus tax, $212.55. That was the biggest expense that I had. And I mean, were there other places that I probably could have rented out, actual, video spaces that I could have rented out? Probably. But I wanted to do it at Urban Foxes, so gosh darn it, I did it at Urban Foxes, alright? And then, I had to rent a camera and a lens from Lens Rentals, which, by the way, I was very saddened to learn that the one local company here that I thought did local rentals does not do them anymore. I mean, they do technically, but the way that it works now is you rent out a production van where it's a whole van full of equipment and a videography person, but I'm the videography person. I just need a camera. I don't need all that. And it's first of all, obviously make it a lot more expensive. But I need all that. I just needed a camera and a lens and maybe a light. But thankfully, the person that I got to help me has been a professional videographer for quite some time, and I was gonna say not to brag, but this isn't even my thing to brag about. But the person that I got to help me with videography did for a time work for a very big North Carolinian YouTuber. So yeah, let's celebrate that. Although, listen, I don't want to spill his tea. Apparently, it wasn't that great, and that's all I'll say. Which, knowing what I know about that North Carolinian YouTuber doesn't surprise me one iota. So I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it there. I don't want the North Carolinian YouTuber breathing down my neck. Anyways, so thankfully he had a lot of gear and he had a drone, which I think I knew he had a drone, but I didn't know. So we had to drive out to Port Gibson to actually shoot the beginning and ending segments at the ruins. Because obviously, if I'm going to have a video about Burning Windsor and the Windsor ruins are their namesake, like I'm going to want to go there. I've never been out there before. It was less spooky than I thought. It didn't feel very haunted. And that's because I'm choosing to believe the ancestors burned it down and therefore I was protected. So there you go. But yeah, the drive there is just all down Highway 18. I really don't like driving down 2-lane highways. I really don't. I just don't. Like, I can tolerate an interstate because at least I can go fast. 2-lane highway, none of that. But we went, what was that, last Sunday? Literally last Sunday. And once you get to Port Gibson, you turn off into this road and it's just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just so many winding roads, nothing but trees, and so much kudzu, and just greenery on either side of you. No other cars, hardly any other cars. Just these like switchbacks almost to get to the actual ruins themselves. And then, of course, the ruins are just kind of in the middle of the woods. It used to be a plantation, a cotton plantation. I want to say 2,600 acres, something like that. And now all 2,600 of those acres are just covered in kudzu. There's like a cleared out field that you can see next to it that I think used to be the fields. And it's just, again, blanketed in green. It's really surreal, not spooky. I like to think I was protected by the ancestors. Yeah. I should hope so. Also, interestingly, we saw some European tourists, and something that I did kind of know, but I wasn't really aware of how close they were. I mean, they're not that close. It's a little bit of a distance, but apparently Natchez gets a lot of European tourists because it's I don't know. It's like a teeny weeny version of New Orleans with way less people. Everything is cheaper. That's what it kind of reminded me of when I went down there for work. But I guess the European tourists from Natchez were coming up to the ruins, and we saw them a couple times, including, and we saw this older couple who were on motorcycles. I forgot where they were from. They're from somewhere in Mississippi. But yeah, there weren't, aside from those 3 sets of people, and then we saw someone who was leaving as we were coming in, so I guess 4 sets of people. There weren't really that many people there. I mean, what day was this? The 5th. So it was literally the day after, or was it? Was it the 11th? No, it was the 12th. I'm lying. I'm a lying liar. It was the 12th. So it's kind of after the 4th, not really a holiday. I mean, kinda, sorta. I don't know. There weren't that many people there. That's all I was gonna say. And it was also really hot. So that last segment that I had, it was supposed to be on camera, but we had just got so many interruptions that it was okay. I was able to do a few takes of the first opening segment, and after that I was we gotta go, it's too hot, I gotta potty. First of all, there's no bathroom out there, which it is maintained by, okay, I don't know who it's maintained, hold on. Was it the Mississippi Department of Archives that maintains it? Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, it's MDAH. Yeah, The site has no visitor amenities, and during certain times of the year, roads may be impassable due to flooding. That was another thing. We couldn't get down there until the 12th because it had just been raining so very much. Just like for a couple weeks straight, I feel like, at the end or in the middle of June. So I would have gone out there sooner if it hadn't just been raining so good gosh darn much. But either way, we were finally able to make it out there, and I mean, hey, the columns are really tall. But honestly, the columns are the least arresting thing about being out there. It really is just the landscape and just how secluded it is. Barely any service. Like, it was, again, spooky but not scary. I wasn't afraid. I was just kind of, again, arrested. Like, it's just like, gotcha, you know? But I am glad that James brought his drone, because it did really add to it. It did really add to it. He kind of ate with that. He really did. Because I was just planning on doing just like a regular stand up out there and calling it. But no, it ended up turning out really well. I am really proud of the videography of it all, because again, that is probably the most effort that I've put into a video in a very long time, aside from work. Obviously, at my job, I put the utmost effort into everything. I am constantly, all right, putting both of my feet, both of them, into the stuff that I make at work. It's just, once you do that 5 days a week, you really don't have any juice left in the tank to do it recreationally. Unfortunately, them's the breaks. It's the analogy of the chef who only eats takeout because when he gets home, he doesn't want to cook. He spent all day cooking. He doesn't want to do that. He just get the takeout, So yeah. Yeah, so I shot the interview, which was like the first thing that I did, because I'd written out the script prior to doing the interview, but I waited until after to see if I had any changes to make, whether or not, I would find something out that would like change something that I put in the intro and outro segments. But aside from the CD, being like in the middle there wasn't really anything that changed. So I recorded the interview May 31st. And then I shot the segments. Hold on. I shot the segments here at my office. When did I do that? What's the date on this? Because I honestly waited far too long. June 25th. It's like almost a month. And then July 12th is when I finally went out and went to the ruins in Port Gibson. So there's a little bit of time in between. I did have a few marathon stints there where I did conjure up the juice in the tank to edit that interview, because again, it was really long. We were talking for, I want to say, 2 hours. Well, the recording that I had was for 2 hours. All 2 hours of that wasn't talking. So I was able to edit out like 30 minutes out of it. A lot of that was kind of dead space of having to restart my camera because it only records for 30 minutes at a time, which is lame. But I think that restriction has been taken off of newer cameras. Like the whole camcorder tax thing like doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. Because the camera that I rented, which again, it was a Canon camera, I don't know if it was the same generation as the one that I have now. It might have been a little bit newer, but it could record for like 2 hours. So not an unlimited amount of time, but longer than 30 minutes. So, yeah. And again, I do really like the way that it turned out, the way that it looked. Honestly, I couldn't be more satisfied with it, with the way that it turned out. And I really liked the response from it, from the guys themselves, It has been, again, really affirming to be received so warmly by them, It could have been a thing where it's like something that they would have wanted to leave in the past, but thankfully, given that there was no like big blow up, I think that also contributed to why they wanted to really revisit it. And honestly, they were just as enthusiastic about it as I was, which again was really good. Um, so yeah, there was a lot of, so I did use some B-roll that I got off of, um, let me see. And I can't, because of the way that the files are, there it doesn't show as being longer than like a minute or something like that. So I don't know cumulatively how long, like how much of that footage from the mini DVDs that I have, but I will say it is or was about, okay, this is annoying me. It was like 11 gigabytes of footage. 11 gigabytes of 480p footage. Because 11 gigabytes of like 1080p footage, that's what? That's nothing, you know? But I've got how many? 20 separate video things that I could take off of the CDs. One of them was a little bit damaged. And it was the one, if you look in the video, there's like a little visual glitch with, what was that? The video of them recording from the ashes in the studio. That DVD was a little bit damaged, so it took a really long time. I didn't want to give up, so I kind of let it do its thing, but it took a really long time to get the video off, and the video itself was like a little bit damaged. So, you know, all of that, it's been the biggest, most substantial project that I've had in quite some time. Probably ever. So now it's like, well, that's done. That's been the thing that I've been chasing this whole time. Like, what's next? I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. I mean, I I truly don't know, like, I don't really have any, like, big thing that's, like, outstanding that I know. I don't have any loose ends left. Really. I mean, I truly don't. So, I don't know. Ooh, my nose is itchy. But yeah, that's Burning Windsor. And they are, well, they're not in the studio now. I think they're still trying to find a studio. And that kind of went into a question that I posited on my Instagram stories, because I know a lot of bands around here, if they're not going to that one guy, they're kind of just DIY recording. So it's like, where are the people going? Because there's this other artist, I forget her name, but she has like the honey blonde hair, and she played not at the folk festival, the Makers Fest recently. Also probably at the folk festival. I don't know. I forget her name though, but she was like, you know, given that Mississippi is the birthplace of America's music, where are the resources? Like, where are the recording studios? You know, where are the practice spaces? And I mean, I know there's some stuff here and there, but infrastructurally, there just kind of isn't a whole lot. And I'm hoping, I mean, I don't know what it would take for that to happen, for more stuff to, you know, more infrastructure to be built out, because Mississippi, unfortunately, does not invest in the arts. They would rather invest in AI data centers than they would the arts, but at the very least, we were able to get a moratorium. Okay, that's a helicopter. We were able to get a moratorium on data centers passed, but that's only for the city of Jackson. There's still stuff being built in the surrounding boroughs and then other places in the state. So it's like, I mean, we got that, but we didn't really get much else for the state. And, you know, because AI has started to become a culture war thing, I guess, our dumb Republican governor who looks like he smells like glue is all for it. So, I really don't know what's gonna go on with that, but at the very least, we were able to stop them from have a moratorium. That's not even stopping it. It's just we're tabling the conversation until a later date. But unfortunately, you know, state of Mississippi does not invest in the arts. I mean, we have the Mississippi Arts Council, but like, we could be doing a lot more. And again, I don't really have the answers for how that would be accomplished, but I sure do wish it would be accomplished. That's all I can really say. But yeah, I don't want to make this too much longer. Now, this is going to be the penultimate, unless I can get it renewed, which I don't even know if I'm going to try, by the way, but this is going to be the penultimate time you hear me say this. It's time for my ad read. Use my code JX10 to get 10% off on eargasm.com. You have until August 7th. That's like a couple of weeks, maybe more than a couple of weeks after this comes out. Do you want to get 10% off? You got to use my code JX10, get 10% off on, ooh, that's cold. I just put that on my face. That was really cold. Get 10% off on eargasm.com. Protect your ears. You know, if you are a burgeoning young person who wants to continue to go to shows, and you want to do it until you're old, until you're an old head, you know, you can be the community old head, you know, you got to protect your hearing. Tinnitus, not a sleigh, kind of cornball behavior, having tinnitus, having preventable tinnitus that you know you can prevent. Protect your ears. Use my code JX10 to get 10% off on eargasm.com. I am gonna look because I am curious, but you're not gonna hear me beg, because I do want to know if I've gotten enough yet. No, I haven't. You're still not gonna hear me beg. I have started working on Seeking. I don't know when I can finish it, because the whole thing about it is that, and I mean, this is like technical, but with the way that the printing would work, I need like an odd amount of spreads in InDesign, and right now I have an even amount, and I don't know what to do. I mean, I could just make the font bigger. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing, and like spreading out some of them a little bit more. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to have to end up doing, now I think about it. It does have a solution, I just haven't done the solution yet, but I am hoping that I can get those printed pretty soon. Get it done and get it printed and get it out and get it done. Get it got, you know? So yeah. But, like I said, I have been to some shows. Hold on, let me mark this off. Where? I dropped it. I've got so many pens on here because I was trying to write in a card, and I think it's just the card, but these are Pilot G2 pens. These are supposed to be the tippy top pen, but they kept skipping, and I had to keep switching between pens, and it's like, is the pen just old? No, it's just the paper on the card that's like lame. Because if I do it on regular paper that's meant to be written on, which cards are meant to be written on, that's the whole point of a card, but the paper that they used to make them is just too glossy, I guess. It's not even that glossy, but whatever. I'm not going to belabor the point. They were just skipping. And I didn't like that. Usually they don't skip. I will still stand up for Pilot G2, alright? These are my favorite pens, specifically in purple. And I got a whole box of them at work. So, anywhoomst. There have been shows, but before I talk about the shows, I mean, this is just gonna have to be a 2-hour episode, I guess. Let's talk about what's coming up. Let's see. Well, it's supposed to be the 22nd as this is coming out. On the 24th, my nose itches so dang bad. We've got It's Only Us, Snake Mirror, Toss Up, and Roxy at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Jackson. That's at 6 o'clock. And then on the 26th, we have There Goes Tokyo, Dreams.Color, and Tira Lira at the End of All Music. That's at 7. And then on a Tuesday, we've got Fall 50 Feet. It's Fall 50 Feet. Inside the Hollow, Moral Law, and Wretched at the Unitarian Universalist Church. That's at 6 o'clock. That's at 6 o'clock. And then, I don't know why my nose is just so bad. On the 2nd of August, we've got Grave Huffer, Plague Burner, Die With Nature, and a band has been added to this, Paralysis. I hope I'm saying that right. That's at CS's. It's at CS's, and it's at 8 on Sunday. And then, on the 8th, we have Deluser, Areola Belt, Elevator Pitch, and Hush Puppy at the Unitarian Universalist Church. That's at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, evening-ish. And then on the 22nd, we got the Color Revolt. Not the Color Revolt. It's just Color Revolt. We got Color Revolt and Smokies at Dueling Hall. It's sold out. So, unless you already got a ticket, I don't know what to tell you. On the 23rd, we got Slip to Dust, Spider Shed, and Encircled Throne at the Unitarian Universalist Church. That's at 6. And then on the 28th, we have Stay Lost, Tan and Handsome, Eisen. They've been here before. And Wretched at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Jackson. My nose is so itchy. It's crazy. And then September. That's my birthday month, by the way. Everyone has to be nice to me during the month of September. I don't make the rules. We have Sunny Mornings. What? Sunny Mondays, Eyes Like Yours, and Goodnight Morning at Urban Foxes. That's on the 6th. And then on the 22nd, we have the Callous Cowboys, Kaunashi, Girl of Glass, and Wielded Steel. That's at Helen Mouse. Well, that's at 6 o'clock. And that's Tuesday, the 22nd. And then on the 26th, we got Girls Night. We got Girls Night at Urban Foxes. That's the Akashic 45s, Miscommunication, Dreams Without Color, Charcoal, and Lee Baines. And also a bunch of artists as well that I didn't put in the Google Calendar. But there's going to be a lot that's going on that night. It's going to be fun. I do really want to make it. Oh, and newly announced Forever Fest. I'm actually... Ooh, my eyeballs itching. My whole face is itching. I don't know what the heck is going on. Let me find it. Oh, let me find it. The lineup. Let me find it. Let me find it. Oh, I'm gonna find it. There's no reason for me to be doing that. Forever Fest. Just let me look it up. Forever Fest. It is October 17th. It starts at 3:30. We got Cody Burnett from As Cities Burn doing a solo set from As Cities Burn, which there's a little bit of crossover because I think they're from Louisiana, but I think there's some Mississippi crossover there. Baby in the 90s, Empty Hands, mostly satire, Oversight, Shadowboxing, Susio Toss Up, and Victory Dog. Tickets, I believe, are on sale, and I think they're $20 again. Yeah, something like that. And then on the 20th, we got Dent May, Sad Bath and Newscast. That's at Helen Mouse. And that's all I got. All the way up until October. And yes, like I said, I've been to some shows. One of those shows was at... Actually, no, both of them were at the Unitarian Universalist Church. It was my first time going there, and I was told that it didn't have any AC, but yeah, it doesn't have any AC. We are in a garage, basically, a big concrete box. So it was very hot, but they had fans set up. And then the second show that I went to, thankfully I did remember to bring a fan, or bring like a handheld fan, which I really need to charge. I should have done that before I sat down, but sometimes I make silly decisions, you know? That first show was on the 3rd. It was Zashed, Skinny Brag, and Wretched. First time seeing Wretched. They are a sludge band from right here in Jackson. And honestly, I loved them. Like, I do have a bit of a soft spot in my heart for sludge. But something that I realized, they did a cover of a Robert Johnson song, which is, you know, the guy who allegedly sold his soul to be a better bluesman. You know, there's a whole crossroads, not conspiracy. I don't know why I wanted to say conspiracy. Urban legend. It was an urban legend. And, you know, I did a cover of it, and that's when I realized that, oh, sludge is blues with distortion. And I like that. I do quite like it. I kind of liked it a lot. So that was Wretched. They have, again, like I just said, quite a few dates coming up. And that was like their what, third show ever? I think I said that. I don't know if I said that, but that was their third show ever. And honestly, they were pretty good. So if you have a chance to see them and you're into the sludge, they're pretty good. And they have a demo CD out, which I was able to purchase the second time that I saw them. And yeah, but also at the show, well, Skinny Rag was supposed to be there, but he had to drop, so it was just two bands. And the other band was Zashed. I have a sticker here. They're from Arkansas, and they were really good. They were really good. Like, I did really enjoy them a whole lot. Again, I'm just really into metalcore. You know, I'm a metalcore girl. I really like my metalcore. But yeah, but they were metalcore, but they had some core still. Because, you know, I feel like a lot of modern metalcore, I've been talking for too long. I feel like a lot of modern metalcore, it's a lot of metal, not a lot of core. I feel like we're forgetting our roots, you know? And I was thinking about this too. I feel like, and, you know, I know people have their answers for what the quintessential metalcore album is, and I just haven't listened to those albums. I want to. I mean, there's really nothing stopping me, truly. But I feel like the quintessential metalcore album in that it fuses like your 80s style Metallica-like thrash metal. And I do just mean this album because the band has had a sound change since then, I'll just say. But it also has breakdown sections and, you know, spots where you can like two-step and stuff like that. But Horizons by Parkway Drive, if you listen to that, also lyrically kind of thrash metal, but like the really fast tremolo parts of like is it Boneyards? I think so. No. Anyways, there are quite a few songs that have like really fast like tremolo parts, but also breakdowns in the songs. Horizons, I feel like, is the quintessential like metalcore album. It came out 2000. I'm gonna look. I want to say it was 2005. Horizons Parkway Drive. 2007. Yeah. And honestly, great album. I don't think it's underrated. I think it is sufficiently rated. I think people rate it when it needs to be rated. But please don't fall, mic stand. Jesus. That scared the crap out of me. But yeah, I have a tape here. It's called, which it doesn't have their name like anywhere on the tape, which I thought was kind of interesting. But it's called Hue and Cry, and it's a tape. Okay, you can't see it. Hold on. I'll hold it closer. There you go. From Zashed. This is the back. Boom. And then, of course, I got a couple stickers. I got this one, which I just showed. And then from their, I guess, record label. Yeah. Final Expression Records. And I'm trying to remember. I'm really trying to, yes. They had just done a tour with, I want to say, Wielded Steel. And this was a date, I think this is like the last date of their tour, like one of the last dates of their tour. Of course, Wielded Steel was not there. But yeah, Zash, they're from Arkansas. It's been a little while since I've seen them, but either way, I still remember really liking them. And then the next show that I've been to, again, at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Jackson. Oh my God, go back to my calendar. Where is it? It was Tuesday. Was that Tuesday? No, it was Wednesday. Drosera, Wretched, Ants on Acid, and Luca. That was a fun show. It did go on for, I mean, it went on for as long as it needed to go on for, but being that it was so hot in that gosh darn concrete box, and I was getting bit up by mosquitoes that entire time, because I was trying to go outside, because after a while, once the sun went down, it got kind of cool outside, but it was still hot on the inside of the box. So I was trying to get outside of the box. There's like a lot of plants and stuff, and I was just getting torn up by mosquitoes. I don't know what it is. Every time I step outside, I must have a big golden corral sign on my forehead for these creatures. But every time I go outside, especially in the summer, I just get ate up by mosquitoes. Like my arms and my ankles because I was wearing pants, but my arms and I was wearing a tank top, but like pants. So my arms, my ankles ate up, chewed upon by these creatures. It was kind of the worst, but I endured. Um, but I saw Drosera Wretched. I've already talked about Wretched. Again, they're really great. Ants on Acid, they are from Mississippi. I still don't know where in Mississippi they're from, but they're another sludge band. But their one guitarist that they had who played this guitar that was like black, but it had like gold hardware on it. Like legit, honest to God, like great blues guitarist. Like, oh my God, I was so impressed. And they were so young too, but it was just, I was so deeply impressed by them. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. Wowee. I love that. I love that we have that here. You know, I feel like sludge is uniquely Southern as well. You know, given that most of the prominent sludge bands, they are from Louisiana. So, you know, that tracks. But I feel like sludge is ours. I feel like we can claim sludge. You know, is Mississippi an extension of Louisiana? No. But I'm claiming sludge. I'm claiming it for the entire state. Louisiana, you can also have it. We're sharing custody of the genre. All right. So, yeah, I do really like sludge. I like it, number one, because I like the way it sounds, but I also like it because it is kind of uniquely, distinctly Southern. And, you know, I'm not exactly wearing camo and mossy oak and belt buckles and scooting boots, but when I hear sludge, I'm like, yeah, I am from the dirty South. I am from the Black Belt. I am, you know? Like, yeah, I do quite like it. I do quite like it. And then there was Luca. They're from Illinois, quite a bit away. And again, they were really good. This was my first time seeing them. And so I left really impressed. But again, it was just so hot in there. It was kind of hard to like, I don't know, really enjoy it because it was truly just so hot and like so many mosquitoes. Like, you know, it just gets too hot sometimes. I really don't know what to say. And then of course Drosera, I guess I did forget truly how much I liked them the first time that I saw them, because I liked them a lot the second time, and I got a CD. Ooh, get a look at that. It's only 3 tracks. It's a EP. Instigator, Thought Crime, Outlier. Where are they from? They're from somewhere in the South. Hold on. They're from Florida. Where in Florida? We can look this up. That's the name of a flower. Never mind. Hold on. They're from Gainesville. I think Gainesville, hold on. Go back to my map. I was looking. I think Gainesville is also in, I guess, the Panhandle. I don't know, the part of Florida that's actually touching the rest of the United States. Yeah, they're like, okay, well they're a little bit south. It's north of Ocala. And you know who's from Ocala? That's right, A Day to Remember. So I don't know if I would consider A Day to Remember to be like a Southern band, though. That's not those vibes. I feel like Ocala is a little bit too close to Orlando to really feel Southern. Did Drosera feel Southern to me? Honestly, no. But, you know, they're over up in that area, I guess. And I really, really like them. And I got a CD. Metallic hardcore. Yeah. You know, there is a distinction between metallic hardcore and metalcore. What is that distinction? I can't articulate it at this moment. But, those are the shows that I went to. And I'll have to put these up on the sticker and pin wall. And put these back in my CD organizer thingy and my tape tray that I have. But yeah, it's been a really big few weeks for me. And I really don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. Honestly, I think I've said everything I needed to say already in this episode, but it's been a big couple of weeks for me. I've been very thankful for everything that has resulted from it, and it's only up from here, baby. So yeah, I have, yeah, aside from like some work things that have been going on, which they aren't really going on anymore, which is good, but I can truly say that I am in a far better place these days than I was in November 2023. So, and it is kind of all thanks to this community. So yeah, pat yourselves on the back. Let's celebrate that. How about it? So yeah, this has been the 75th episode of the Runnin My Mouth podcast. I've been your host, Erin. Thank you for allowing me to run my mouth. Follow me on Instagram, because if you're not following me on Instagram, you're only getting half the story. All right? Use my code. You only have a little bit of time to use my code, JX10. To get 10% off on eargasm.com. Protect your ears. You need to protect them. They are vulnerable. All right? All right. And, yeah. Stream my EP, Precipice. It's on Bandcamp and YouTube. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna leave soon, but I probably do need to, first of all, I need to restart my dryer, because it was going and then it stopped, and I have to run my dryer twice for it to actually dry my clothes, which I bought it like that, so it's just kind of inefficient right out the box, even though it is used, but whatever. I need to start getting ready to go to the fair. Ooh, I need to charge my freaking fan. Anywho, I'm out of here.